the electric knife blade, not necessarily the electric knife to cut these, because the way it's seared they cut easier. But anyway, I've sharpened my knife and I think that I can cut it okay with this, and we'll see how well they cut. If they don't cut real well and the meat starts pulling apart, they're cutting fine. It's pulling apart a little bit, but we're going to eat them here in a minute anyway, so they don't have to be so beautiful, but they're cutting fine here.
It already has time to cool off though, right?
I've had time to cool off. A lot of times what I'll do when I'm doing it for a function or I'm giving them away, like I'll give a lot of ribs away for Christmas, I will just refrigerate them after I cook them, and then the next day I'll cut them, and they really cut easy after they come out of the refrigerator. And then I'll bag them and I'll give them to people for Christmas. But they're not cutting exactly great now, but they're cutting good, and so that'll be good for our meal tonight. They're cutting pretty good. If you want to see how they cut, I normally just cut and run right down the bone. And a lot of times on the baby backs you have this membrane here that's pretty tough that you don't eat anyway, so if you try to pull it off before you cook or even after, it'll mess the meat up pretty bad. So, but I've got this one going here and it's not going to hurt anything, so I'm going to just pull it apart. Most of the time I don't pull it apart, but since that one was coming loose anyway. And when you do that, it really that really kind of keeps the meat together, so it may break up a little bit when I'm cutting them, but it'll be fine. There's a good example of a fairly decent baby back rib there. And it's the flavor of the meat that makes it very rich meat. Normally I don't eat that many of them when I have a meal, because it's just the meat is so rich. There it is, you can see it. It's pretty rich piece of meat there. Okay, anyway, we're through with this now, and I'm going ahead and I'm going to put my ribs over on this side. I'll pile them up all together. This is our meal. There's 3 racks of ribs, and then we're going to have a little more. I cut this brisket off of the one that's smoking out there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let me cut into it real quick. It's probably.
So back to the rib question. If you don't use rub, then what do you use? Or just throw it on directly?
Yeah, because the meat in itself is where you get your flavor. The ribs are real rich. If you've ever eaten baby backs, or sometimes you can bake them in the oven, you know, and make like luau ribs or something, and it's the meat. And what I want you to see here is red rim around here. That's the way it is when you smoke meat. Whenever you smoke briskets, they have a red ring around them. And anyway, I'm going to go ahead and use this other knife, the electric one, to cut this. And like I say, what I do is I cut a cross grain, and that's what makes the meat tender. And so now this here could have smoked another hour, but it's okay. It's a roast and everything. You know, some people like rare roast. This is not a rare roast. This is cooked all the way through, but I cook them a little bit more. It'll be moist here. I dry them out just a little bit more than this, where they aren't. You know, different people have different techniques, but this one here will be okay. It'll be a decent one. I just normally smoke them, and that's why I've got the brisket out there on it right now. I'm going to smoke it probably another hour or so before I pull it off, because I pull these off just a little early, which is okay. And this is basically the way I cut them. I cut them anywhere. It varies the thickness. Probably 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch is the thickness that I cut the brisket. Now, this is not the complete brisket, because we ate some of it last night, and I gave some to a friend of mine this morning, and a bag of it. And this particular brisket here will go to a friend of mine. This daughter got married. Anyway, I'm going to get her some other things, but she loves my brisket, and so she always considers it a treat for some reason. So anyway, I'm going to give her this as part of her wedding gift, this particular one here. And what I've done, my favorite sauce there, this is so it picks up some spices. Now, if you don't like barbecue sauce on your meat, don't do this. But what I do is I took my ladle and put a scoop of Renfro's barbecue sauce in here. And what I'll do is I will put some of the meat in here. I'll probably bag it in 2 different bags, because it'll just be her and her husband eating it. And this is about 5 pounds of meat here. And I didn't want any of it to go to waste, because it's work intensive to do it this way, and I just hate to see the barbecue go to waste. But a lot of times now when I'm doing, I told Ty, and I can't remember if I did this on tape, I did about 300 pounds or so of brisket for my niece's wedding a couple of months ago. She likes my brisket also. And when I do this, these are steam pans. This is a half-size steam pan. And normally what I'll do is I'll cut the brisket like this, and I'm not going to lay it in, but I'll just lay the brisket in to these steam pans, and then I can get a brisket, or in some cases a little over a brisket, in one of these pans. And what I do then is I put about 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces of water in the bottom of the pan. I take Renfro sauce. I don't put it on like cake icing, but it would be similar to that. I put the Renfro sauce over the top of it, not real thick. I probably add about 3 ounces of Renfro sauce on top of it, and then I seal it up and freeze them. And when I'm doing a big function, that 300 pounds or so of brisket that I did was probably the most I've ever done at one time. I fed 100 people a lot of times. Now I do not do this for money. I've never made money off of this, but when I do it, a lot of times I'll do several of these steam pans. And like this last week, I did 6 briskets for a fundraiser for my daughter-in-law. And so you put them in the pan, and that way whenever they warm it up, all they have to do is put it in the oven. Normally when these things are thawed out, like if I was going to warm this up for a football game tomorrow or something of that nature, I would put it on the oven at 275 degrees. I leave it in there for about 40 minutes. I leave it in the oven. I turn the oven off, and just and it'll be the last thing that I pull out. I'll get my potato salad ready, my coleslaw, my jalapenos or beans or whatever else I have, and then when I get ready to serve it, I will pull this out last, and that way it is real hot and steamy, just like it just came off the, it'll taste just like it came off the smoker. And I do not like to, myself personally, I do not like to eat the brisket lukewarm. I don't think it tastes very good. I think it tastes, it's delicious cold for me personally, and it's delicious hot, but when it's mid-temperature, I really don't care to eat it. And so anyway, I just package it up, and if you can get a shot of this, this is the top piece, that what I consider the prime piece of it that I showed yesterday, and these pieces here, and then this is really good meat too. This is the bottom piece of the brisket. That one I told you that it's encapsulated with fat that normally does not get smoked. Well, it got smoked because I pulled the fat, Ty and I pulled the fat off of it when we smoke these. Sometimes what I'll do, if I don't take the time to pull the fat off and I go ahead and smoke it, a lot of times what I'll do is this will be my chopped barbecue. And so whenever I make chopped barbecue, which the kids like a whole lot, so it's a favorite of children. And but anyway, I'll take that portion and I will chop it up or shred it, and I'll put it in a saucepan, and I'll add Renfro sauce to it, and just let it simmer and warm up, and then I'll serve it on hamburger buns. And it makes delicious sandwiches, and a lot of people like that, better than they like the sliced brisket. And anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started now and put the brisket in the. This is a gallon freezer bag here, so I'll just slide it in, and we'll be finished with this shortly. And what I'll do in a minute, I smoked 2 pork roasts. The fire was, or the smoker was doing real well yesterday, and so Ty and I went down to the store and got us a couple of pork roasts. And so I smoked those pork roasts for about 3 hours. There's a total of about 16 pounds, 2 pork roasts at about 8 pounds a piece. And then I brought them in and I put them in my roaster pan. And then this morning when I got up, I went ahead and put them in the oven 350 degrees for 3 hours. And what I'm going to do with those is I'll make pulled pork, but I'll show you in a minute. And I'm going to do one of them with the way that they do it, like in places like in North Carolina and Memphis, where they use kind of a vinegary sauce, and the people from those areas, they love this. It's this type of barbecue, and we'll call it pulled pork. They call it barbecue. And then I will also do one with the Renfro sauce. and so that's good for right now time. I'll go ahead and put the meat in here. I was used some improper English there, and I noticed it when I did it, and it's too late though when it's on tape, you know.
Redo it again if you want.
Oh no, that's fine. I've already done it. You just have to edit the best you can. Just don't want to sound too hicky. This is pretty easy this way. That way they can just put it in, and it's a lot cheaper than using those pans. But they'll be able to just put it in and put it on auto defrost or something in the microwave.
Mm-hmm.
You can go ahead and turn it on. Oh, you got it running now.
Still got it
okay,
running.
one other thing that I wanted to say is yesterday I said for about 30 minutes on the glazing if you want to do your ribs. That 30 minutes is on the smoker. Now if you're grilling outside, you probably want to put your glazing on about 4 to 8 minutes before you take your ribs off. So in other words, that glaze that I use, that Hormel glaze that I use, in fact here's a fresh bottle of it, hadn't been opened. And this one's a little different. It's got it's the cherry instead of the brown sugar. And but anyway, put that on anywhere between about 4 to 8 minutes before you take them off your grill. What you do is after you cook your ribs, they're done, basically done, or just about done. They only like a few minutes to being done. You put the bone side down, and then spread your glazing on top of them. And then put the lid down on your Weber or whatever, put your lid back on there and leave it anywhere between 4 to, depending on the temperature, 4 to 8 minutes. And you'll have to get your own feel for that one. And I'm packaging this right now. So messy barbecue. I think I'll call that one bag right there. Got sauce in it. Go ahead and do another one. You turn that off if you want to. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get another bag out. Where did I put those bags? Here they are. Okay. This is probably my head. My bald head. And again, I'll get my Renfro sauce out.
Oh, better, much better.
I buy it by the gallon because I use so much. To give you an example, I've had several functions that I've cooked for here in the last month, and I've used about a gallon of sauce while I was doing that, so give you an indication of how much sauce I use. Like I said, my friends make this, and it's a national company, so. But on something as hard as, or as work intensive as some of this barbecue that I do and everything, I would not use it if I didn't think it was the best, because it's just too much work involved to use inferior products. It's like that's why I went from the spare ribs to the baby bags. So the baby bags, if I'm going to go to the trouble to make it, I want to do the best. And for me personally, I think the baby bags are the best tasting ribs you can get. Anyway, I'll do the same thing. I'll show you what I did. I just kind of spread it out in the sack there. I'll probably put a little more in there. And if Emerald's around, I don't mind him using my technique here. Yeah, I've just kind of got it spread out as I showed earlier. And what I do normally when I put these in there, I will just go into one person. I'll show you. That's a really good cut of barbecue right there. It's got the little.
Zoom in here.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than this here. You can go all over the United States and you won't get a better piece of barbecue than that. Anybody can do it. It's just that, you know, if you want to spend the time and the effort to do it, it's like anything else. So what I'll do is I will split it up again. I'll use this stuff, the top piece, my favorite, what I consider the best piece, and then I'll fill it in with with the bottom piece, which is good also. The bottom piece really is, I don't know, it could, I guess you could say it may even taste better than the top piece because it's got more marbling in it. I mean, it's marble like a nice steak or something. And whenever you cook yours, you'll be able to see. I think what I'll do, and there's that other piece of meat I told you that comes out with a little steak looking deal. That's that top piece of barbecue. And see the way I do it, it has a little ring around it also. That makes really a nice piece of meat. And it has a little marbling to it also. Not as much as the bottom, as the one that's covered in fat. So that should be enough for that bag, and then I'll go ahead and do one more bag. It's starting to get pretty messy now.
When's a good condition to cut the brisket?
What I do is it depends. If they set overnight, what I like to do is sometimes I will smoke them when people are over here and we'll have dinner, like if there's a few people over, so I'll go ahead and cut them that evening when I take them off the smoker, similar to what we did last night. If I want to package them and like I did for the fundraiser this week, I would rather, if I had time, I would rather just let them set up overnight, because when they're cold, they're easy to cut, very easy to cut, and they don't pull apart or anything. You get some nice pieces. You can go ahead and cut it off now. Okay, this is Oklahoma Joe's Southern Vinegar Barbecue Sauce. I haven't used it before, but it's more of a vinegary taste to it with barbecue in there, and it's specifically for poultry and pork, and specifically probably the pulled pork. And anyway, I'm going to start pulling it now, and I'm just going to do one pan with this right now, and then I'll get the other pan to do with room fronts here in a few minutes. And I don't want to, if no one's going to eat this, I don't want to get too much of it, so. I don't know what my taste preference is, but I'll probably eat it. I'll eat anything, so. So I'll put this in my saucepan. We'll get started here in a minute. I bet Barry Scott would like this. Instead of doing all the roast right now, I think I'll do just a little bit, enough for lunch of these two. That way, if we don't like the vinegar, then we won't do the vinegar. See if there's a little piece of fat on this, I'll pull it out. I'm not going to do it. I hate fat, so unless it's on me. So see how it looks shredded? Just pulled. It will be delicious. Okay, this is. I'll bring it over and let you look at it. I wash my hands about 100, 200 times a day when I'm doing this, so bear with me. Okay, this is what it's going to look like in the saucepan. Okay. And I'll pour the sauce on there when I'm getting ready to put it on right now. So there's your Memphis barbecue. Take my ladle and stir it up. You may want to try one of these sandwiches, and then I'll pull a couple of that pieces out of the bags I put for that girl that just got married, and I just won't tell her if you won't tell her that you ate part of her barbecue.
I'm not going to say anything like that. You serve this hot? You have to warm it up again, or?
Yeah, serve it. You can warm it up and serve it. It's just, you know, I'm gonna put a little bit more sauce in here, and what I'll do is I've got the fire turned up a little over medium, and I'll let it simmer for, you know, just till it's warm,
Okay.
depending on what kind of pan you use and what temperature. I'll probably simmer this. I'll get the heat up on it, and then I'll turn the heat back down, and probably let it go for about 7 minutes.
You have a light on the hood?
No, my light's not working here, I don't think.
Okay.
No,
All right.
I have a bulb there. So
That's right.
anyway, there it is right there, if you want to see what it looks
Yep,
like.
that looks better.
Okay. So it's real simple. So just if you like pork, a lot of people like pork better than they do beef. I prefer beef and chicken myself. So some people, you know, that's all they want to eat is pork. And,
You definitely smell the vinegar already.
yeah. And like I say, on North Carolina and Memphis and everything, this is pretty common here. And I think the same thing in Kansas City. Because I know I've always heard about Kansas City barbecue, and I've eaten barbecue up there several places, and it's okay, you know, it's a filler, but I prefer the Texas smoked type barbecue. Most of the places in Texas and all these little country towns, they really have some good barbecue, and they smoke it all.